What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about if I think paying for the Peloton app without the Peloton bike is worth it. So I've done a lot of different content on the Peloton and the Peloton bike. I was quarantining with my boyfriend who got a Peloton in late April and stayed with him until the beginning of July, where I was riding the Peloton bike pretty much every day. And then once I moved back to San Francisco to my apartment, I no longer had a bike, so I started really trying out a lot of the other content that the app has to offer. So if you're going to get a bike that's not the Peloton, you want to make sure that the bike you're going to get has a way to measure resistance and cadence. So how hard it is to pedal and how fast you're going. Because if you don't have a way to measure those things, basically the Peloton classes are going to be very hard to do. I'm actually home in Pennsylvania right now, and we have an Airdyne bike, which is basically just a fan bike. And essentially, the faster you pedal, the higher the resistance gets, and there's no other functionality of the bike. And I've tried a couple Peloton classes, and it's basically impossible to do the Peloton classes. It's very hard because Peloton really stresses being at a specific resistance and a specific cadence, and sometimes it'll be a high resistance but low cadence, and vice versa, and the Airdyne bike just does not support that functionality at all. So I would recommend not doing Peloton classes on a bike that you cannot measure your resistance and cadence. But as long as you can measure your resistance and cadence, I do think that it's worth paying for the Peloton app. You're not really giving up a lot of features to have a cheaper bike. The biggest thing you're giving up is leaderboard functionality. So every class you take as you're taking it, you have an output number, which is made up by combining your cadence and your resistance and having this output. And that output, you are competing against other people that have taken the class or are currently taking the class for that specific time. So as you go through the class, like the output for everybody goes up and yours goes up, and it shows you what place you are. And basically without the Peloton branded bike, there is no way to emulate this. You can definitely track your cadence and resistance throughout the ride on different apps depending on the cheaper bike that you have, but you will never be able to be on that leaderboard, and there's no way to import that data into Peloton, so you can't really compare yourself to other Peloton riders. So you have to decide if a leaderboard and competing against people are really important to you, because if it is really important, then you're going to have to get a Peloton, but if it's not, then you can pretty much use any cheaper bike and just look at the data wherever the cheaper apps that you use store it. I would also highly recommend a heart rate monitor for a cheaper bike, just because I feel like you actually do get a lot of information from your heart rate. You can kind of see how hard you're working, and calorie estimation is a lot better if you have a heart rate monitor. Along with not being able to store your output in Peloton, Power Zone classes are also going to be harder. So Power Zone is a type of class that Peloton offers where you essentially take a 20-minute Power Zone test where you go as hard as possible for 20 minutes, and they take your output, and then based on your output, they'll give you 7 different zones, where zone 1 is the easiest and zone 7 is the hardest. And then there's a lot of classes that kind of go around this, and the instructors will be like, go in your zone 3, go in your zone 4, instead of specifically calling out a resistance and cadence. And I do really like those classes. I find them very personalized to you, and that would be a lot harder to do without the Peloton bike if you were just kind of trying to calculate it on your own and keeping in the zones. That being said, it's definitely not impossible. It's just not going to be as easy as having the Peloton bike do it for you. So overall, I think if you have a bike or are considering getting a bike that can measure resistance and cadence, it is definitely worth paying the $13 a month to access the Peloton content. I definitely think the Peloton bike content is like the most unique content that Peloton has. There's basically no company that will give you the kind of content that Peloton will for free. I feel like with strength training or yoga, you can find a lot of content like that on YouTube, but you're not going to find the cycling content, especially when they're coming out with 5 to 6 classes daily. You'll just never be able to find that plethora of content anywhere else. And $13 a month is pretty cheap for that content when you consider a spin class, in San Francisco at least, is like $30 for one class. Now, since early July, I have not had access to a bike, so I've really been trying out a lot of different content that Peloton offers besides just the bike content. I have pretty much no experience with the tread content, so I'm not going to talk about that a lot, but I've done videos on the outdoor running and yoga classes that Peloton offers, And I've also done a lot of the strength training classes that I just haven't recorded, so I have a lot of opinions on these. And overall, I think if you're already paying for the Peloton subscription, you're crazy not to take advantage of these classes that are offered. They come out with new content every day, which is awesome. I find it very well organized. I like that there's instructors that do bike content, but also do strength, also do yoga, so you can kind of follow them through all of the different classes that they teach. It's very organized in one place. I can see all my workouts and kind of see if I'm improving or not improving. And it's very easy to compare over workouts. I do think that the outdoor running is still pretty unique. There's not a lot of content out there. Basically, for the outdoor running, they're playing music in the background, and then an instructor tells you when to go faster and when to slow down, and basically just motivates you to keep going, which I really like. I'm not a huge runner, and I find it hard to motivate myself, but I find when somebody else is telling me what to do, I really like it, and I find that unique. I'm not really sure where else you could find content like that. However, for the yoga and strength training, I definitely acknowledge there's a lot of stuff that you could find on YouTube that's completely free that you could use. I would say that when I was doing the yoga, I hadn't done yoga before trying yoga on Peloton, and I found that it was very beginner friendly. They had put together an entire program to kind of ease your way into it, which I really appreciated. And I also think that there's a lot harder yoga, so if you're really a yoga expert, that you could find a lot of classes that kind of taught at a higher level than a lot of the stuff that is on YouTube, because I feel like there's a lot of introductory yoga classes on YouTube, but not necessarily once you're more advanced. I also think that you could find a lot of the strength training on YouTube, especially the abs. I know that Chloe Ting is a really big thing right now, and that's completely free. There's a lot of other instructors that post free YouTube content, but I do like that it's all organized, all in one place, and it is very easy to use. It's very easy to select what part of the body you'd like to utilize, how difficult the class should be, how long the class should be. And again, I like that instructors do strength training, but they also do all the other kinds of courses, so you kind of have a consistent instructor. I will say that the one caveat with the strength training is that you need a wide variety of dumbbells. In San Francisco, I only have 3-pound dumbbells right now, and that really limits what classes I can take. Essentially, that's only arm toning. I know 3 pounds is very light, but for any of the legs, you need like 10 to 20 pounds, maybe even more, and you kind of need a wide variety, and they assume that you'll have those weights. So it's definitely not just like, oh, get the app and then you can do all the strength training. You also need the equipment too. Overall, I think if you don't have a Peloton bike, you can probably pass on the other Peloton content. I'm not sure if it's worth $13 a month. If you like everything in one place and you want new content daily, then yes, it probably is worth it. But if you're okay repeating classes that you find online on YouTube, you probably could just do that and have similar results. However, I think if you're going to buy a bike that can measure resistance and cadence, you should definitely check out the other classes Peloton has to offer, because once you pay for the subscription, all of that content is available to you, and it is really nicely organized content. It is good content. So that's all I really wanted to say for this video. I hope that you enjoyed watching it. Let me know if you have any Peloton questions. This is actually like my 10th Peloton video, so I just love talking about the Peloton apparently. I hope you are staying safe, having an awesome week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!